When you're out tending to your goats only to realize that they've all been drained of their blood, then you probably already know what cryptid is likely to blame. There are those that doubt, those that believe, and those that know this monster is out there. Its origins began in Puerto Rico, but somehow migrated all the way to the United States. But it's not only where it began and ended, but how the image of this thing has changed over time. We'll look at the beginning, middle, and end of the history of Chupacabra. But most importantly, we're going to look into one of the legends of the islands from which it originated. If modern man is seeing something that the ancestors of the land have been saying exists, it adds so much more reason to believe in the story of El Chupacabra. But I do want to frame this up because as I looked into this, I found that there's a lot of stuff on the Chupacabra. There's a couple occurrences where animals were found drained of their blood, even before its first reported sighting. And also in 1994, there was a sighting of 4 to 6 little grays spotted underneath a bed in Puerto Rico, which some believe are Chupacabras themselves. But for this video, I'm only going to look into the two forms of Chupacabra, the bipedal version with big red eyes and the dog-like version. So let's go back in time into the olden days, back when gasoline was 75 cents a gallon and TikTok was only what clocks did on the wall, back into 1995 in Puerto Rico. On November 19th, 1995, on Sunday, the Chupacabra was being blamed for the deaths of cats, dogs, goats, turkeys, and even cows and horses. On that night, it was said to have torn open a window and attacked a stuffed animal, believing it to be prey. It ripped the little toy apart and left a piece of rancid meat on the windowsill. Whoever had seen it said that the monster had hairy arms with big red eyes. The eyewitnesses had said it just showed up and poof, it vanished. On this same day, it was seen again, but in Canovanas. And this eyewitness also described a creature having bit their family dog after it just ran out from under the bush. This person had said, "I think it belongs to the monkey family, but it isn't a monkey exactly. It ran like a monkey and was about 4 feet tall, but it didn't have a tail." And these are not isolated incidents at all. December 7th, 1995. Chickens and cows were found drained of their blood near Guanica, Puerto Rico. December 14th, 1995. Caged rabbits were found drained completely of their blood with puncture holes in their neck in El Guabo on the East Coast. December 18th. Animals were found drained of their blood with puncture wounds on their neck. December 26th. A woman found her Siamese cat dead with the genitalia removed in the Torachira, Baja region. Also on December 26th, later in the day, 11 goats were found dead. And the attacks go on, but what most people fail to report is that in each of these accounts, they describe the El Chupacabra as being 4 to 6 feet tall and bipedal, but more importantly, it seems to have a thing with mutilating the corpses of its victims, assuming that these are all from the same Chupacabra. But this is the bipedal 4 to 6 foot tall Chupacabra. What about the 4-legged version of this monster? How did this modern day legend shift from walking on 2 legs and being compared to a kangaroo to 4 legs and being thought to be a dog with mange? Also, while this is thought to be a modern day cryptid, I went in search of Puerto Rican folklore of vampiric creatures, and in a minute you'll get to hear the most interesting thing that I found. So the 4-legged version, where did that start and where did it come from? And most importantly, why is it thought to be a Chupacabra when the original version looked nothing like this? According to one of the main sources I used, which I'm conflicted about using because since 1, it does say Princeton EDU, but 2, it looks like this. This says the first United States sighting was in Northwest Miami, in a rural area in March of 1996. Supposedly 40 animals were killed by the Chupacabra, and one of the people who had seen the monster described it as being dog-like and stood up with 2 short arms in the air. There are other reports in Texas and Mexico, but many more shortly after this. The majority of the sightings all describe something quadrupedal instead of bipedal. The reason for this change, I can't really say. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You don't go from saying aliens are little green men with big black eyes to aliens are 6 legs with tiny red eyes. It's just very weird, and I don't know the reason for it other than it being something other than a Chupacabra, unless there was some sort of Chupacabra sickness that afflicted multiple types of animals. And it kind of makes more sense, but also it seems as though the original Chupacabra could have been a type of vampire. Sadly though, there is just one account of vampiric activity before the Chupacabra made his appearance, and that is El Vampiro de Moca, which translates to the Vampire of Moca. This vampire has the same MO as El Chupacabra. It attacked livestock and drained them nearly entirely of their blood. The animals had precise perforations on their skin, as though a surgical tool of sorts had been used. And here's where some of you may disagree, because there's people that believe Vampiro de Moca and El Chupacabra are one and the same, but I'd like to add this thought to the table. You see, tigers and lions are both forms of cats, and they both go for the jugular whenever they're hunting, but they are two different species. So what if these two incidents are of two separate creatures, but in similar fashion to each other? And what that really means is that I've just added a new problem that needs to be solved. First, we just had the Chupacabra and its different forms, but now there's three different creatures all together that do the same thing. But if my far-fetched theory is right, then it explains everything, and it comes in the form of the Sucrant. The Sucrant is a Caribbean version of vampire, but it wasn't bitten by another vampire to be made into one. It used black magic to do so. And you see, by day, the Sucrant appears as an old hag, but during the night, she puts her skin into a mortar and flies around to enter into people's homes through keyholes and cracks in the door. The Sucrant is supposed to drink only some of the victim's blood, but if it drinks too much, then it could potentially kill the person or perhaps the animal. And if it drinks too much but not enough to kill them, it will turn them into a Sucrant. So if this happens to something like a duende, which is part of Latin mythology, could the duende have become a vampiric little person that now has shape-shifting capabilities like the Sucrant? That's a totally outlandish theory that requires vampires, magic, and little people to all be real and to all have contact with one another, but that's my yarn on a whiteboard theory. But what do you think? Whatever you believe in, let me know in the comments. I always enjoy talking with you on what you think, believe, or have seen. Modern day sightings seem to still be happening, such as this here. So could this odd creature be a Chupacabra or something else entirely? There seems to be no end to this little monster's legacy. And when it comes to the sightings, they didn't end in the 90s. They continued, but just with an entirely different type of animal, which would also coincide with my Sucrant vampire theory, meaning it would have just needed to bite a dog to create this monster. Which brings us to the quadrupedal Chupacabra that was killed and stuffed. In late August, a man heard something in his chicken coop terrorizing his chickens, so the next night he set out some poison thinking he would find a raccoon or some other predator. He was even expecting the possibility of a coyote. However, he ends up recovering the dead body of something unknown. Like most would naturally do, he was going to dispose of the corpse until his cousin Lynn Butler had seen what he managed to kill. Lynn said that he couldn't just throw it away and wanted to take it home. He was an amateur taxidermist, so he figured he'd make something out of it. But realizing that this may be an opportunity of a lifetime, he wanted someone with much more experience to handle it, so he brought in Jerry Ayer, the owner of Blanco Taxidermy School, where he attempted to bring the creature back to life. Some people think that this is just a coyote with mange, or even a dog with the same affliction. However, in his time, Jerry Ayer has been through plenty of coyotes, and he says he knows for a fact this isn't one. So if this isn't a coyote, and we'll assume that it's not a dog, what else could this creature be? Now, one more bonus theory is that it could be the Grinch. No, not the Grinch, but a grunch that made its way to Puerto Rico. It looks and acts just like the original Chupacabra. It's a type of creature that has continuously bred with its own cryptid family, that it appears and acts in such a horrifying manner. And this particular creature I only found out about thanks to this book. It has over 250 cryptids inside of it from all of the United States, and if monsters is something that you're into, then you're probably gonna love this. The link for it is in the description below. So you tell me, is this a real Chupacabra or just a bunch of hokey superstition? Is the real Chupacabra bipedal or quadrupedal? Or did this all start thanks to the Caribbean vampire, the Sucrant? Let me know down in the comments, and then check out this video here, and I'll see you there. Could that duende have become a vampiric little person that now has shape-shifting capabilities like that of a croissant? Croissant. Like a croissant.